Get ready for the 2024 rookie draft right here, right now. Let's go.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. Sorry for last week, our absence, if you guys are still listening in season, but for a Dynasty show, this is kind of the dead time. This is the worst time of the year for Dynasty podcasts. None of you guys care at all anyway, what we have to say in season, so I'm not going to feel too bad about this, but thank you guys for joining us here today, and I'm excited because we're going to be going over the 2024 rookie mock draft, just the first round. We're going to be talking through our picks here. Maybe as time goes on, as we get closer to the end of the season, we'll do 2 rounds, but there's a lot of fun players in this one, so I'm excited to talk about these guys. Before we get into that, though, I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at TDC_Calvin. My co-host, Dale Terry, at Dynasty_Dale. The podcast at FF After Dark. You can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, anywhere the podcasts are really found. Rumble, YouTube and Rumble if you want to see our ugly mugs. If you just want to listen to the audio, my soothing melody of a voice, melodious, whatever that word is. But you can find that everywhere else. So thank you guys for joining us today, and we're going to have some fun with this mock draft. And I'm going to tell Dale he's limited to 3 Ohio State players in this entire mock.
Minimum 3 Ohio State players.
You're capped at 3 players. How are we doing today, Dale?
Yes. Hey, I'm doing really good. I am really excited about this mock because we are going to have some receipts for how we view players so far. You know, it's I feel it's really hard to judge. I mean, we're over halfway through the college football season, so we have a good glimpse of who's doing well, but still, like it still doesn't always translate to the NFL draft in April, and where these guys go with their combines, how the bowl games go, stuff like that. So I'm just really excited to get into it, so we can talk about some of these players, and there's gonna be a lot of players that we don't necessarily know a lot about that we're going to get to know here in the next few months.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's why I love doing it now. And if you're 100%. Following the podcast, we're kind of getting into a trend and a routine here over the last couple of years, but after the actual NFL season and the fantasy season here, after the Super Bowl, we'll dive into it and give our initial rookie rankings for every position. We're going to go through the quarterbacks. We're going to go through the receivers, running backs, tight ends, all these guys. And then we're going to see how these guys change over time. And what I'm excited to do this year that we haven't done yet is going back to last year, because we're actually tracking it all really well now and seeing where we were right, where we were wrong, how some of the changes in these guys' values mattered, or if they didn't. AJ Brown is the perfect example that I kind of go to time and time again. He was a 101 player for many, many years. Didn't have the greatest combine, had a good one, but in the same combine as his teammate DK Metcalf. DK blew him out of the water. AJ Brown ended up falling to around the 1.8, 1.9 in that rookie draft. And I mean, look at the steal of that guy. That guy he's such a stud, man. And, you have a top 3 dynasty wide receiver now at the 9 spot, just because people change their values on this guy that was the 101 through his entire college career until the combine, and the over analysis kind of started to set in. So we're going to go through that. We're going to go through these mock draft here today and these rookies and give you some of our thoughts. And that's where it's going to get fun, because we're doing a Superflex mock draft. We got quarterbacks in here. There's at least one tight end that I think we're going to be interested in here.
Agreed.
There's quite a few wide receivers that are really standing out this year. Running back, how highly are we going to take these guys? There's a lot of questions, and we're going to help you guys get an idea, especially right now with the, you're kind of in the spot in your leagues where you need to make a decision in Dynasty, where either I'm going to be a contender and I'm selling those future firsts for players now to help me go get that championship, or I'm selling these good players for first. What are these firsts going to buy me? So that's why we're excited to talk to you guys. But yeah, Dale, any last thoughts before we get into this?
I am excited to pick this 101, Calvin. So let's roll it, man.
All right. So spoiler alert, Dale wanted the 101 just so that he could have his guy. He's got his his Ohio State player lined up here, and I might as well already just
Mhm.
put it in here. But it's going to
Yep.
be
I mean, I honestly feel for a lot of people that this is going to be a pinned in player. All depending on how you are at quarterback, especially in a super flex league where that is one of the more important positions, obviously. But um, yeah, I'm going with Marvin Harrison Jr. He is a generational talent. I think he's a can't miss. I know people in super flex just get enamored with quarterbacks and all these potentials with all this and that for the quarterback, but I want a guy that I know is going to score 20 plus points a week, I feel. And I mean,
mhm.
I don't feel he's necessarily going to do that, week one rookie in the NFL by any means, but he is him. I'm excited about Marvin Harrison Jr. and I just really hope he doesn't go to a trash organization. That's my biggest thing.
Las
So,
Vegas Raiders, come on
yes, if he goes to
down.
the Raiders, I'll be extremely sad, and I will probably have him at the 102. But still,
No,
yeah, yeah.
no surprise
He's
here.
fantastic.
He's a great player, and
Yes.
people are going to say, "Oh, but it's Superflex. You have to take the quarterback." But I mean, this
You don't.
guy's probably in year one going to be above Justin Jefferson. He's going to be above Jamar Chase just because of how good his college career was and the hype around this guy with his dad and everything. This guy's his hype is going to be it's going to be out there, and
It's gonna
if
be
he goes
crazy.
to a good landing spot, which there's no way he's getting out of a top 5 NFL
Oh,
draft pick,
there's no
right?
way.
So,
There's no way.
if he goes to a solid player or a solid team, dude, it's going to be over. So, I don't fault you one bit for taking him over a quarterback here. So,
And two, I think he is quarter. He's I almost I don't necessarily think there's a player that's necessarily quarterback proof, but I think he's pretty close. With what he's shown this year with Kyle McCord as his quarterback,
right.
compared to C.J. Stroud as his quarterback last year,
Yeah, I mean, there's still
like
a chance he gets
he's
CJ back, man.
yeah, it is very possible.
Right.
So but yeah, I'm very excited about Marvin Harrison.
All right, so
Extremely.
I'll make it easy here and go Caleb Williams.
Yep. Yep. So with Williams, he is the superstar quarterback out of USC. Um, he's really he was a Heisman Trophy winner last year. He's in a Heisman Trophy running again this year. But he's he's had a little tough time this year. With some more higher profile defenses.
Yes, he has.
But also, yeah, he has been. But also, his defense is utter garbage, and his offensive line is basically high school players. It seems like so.
Yeah, it's not a great situation at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. It is not a great situation. I mean, he does have some really good skill players like Zach Branch, who, if you're in Devy leagues, that's someone you are really looking forward to. But
Right.
Caleb Williams, I do not fault anybody if they would take him at 101, but he's probably going to be the number one quarterback off the board.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I do think that his skill set, I know he's gotten docked and everything. I
Mhm.
I'm not going to lie to you and say that I'm not a little concerned about his
I'm pretty
mentality.
concerned.
His
Yes,
off the field mentality is just it's not the greatest. Not what you want to see
it's
from
it's
a
different. It's different.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's very
yeah,
he's
and
kind of he's very self-centered a little bit, and it's not to say that he's not looking out for himself because he is, and
mhm.
respect to him for that. He's kind of earned it. He's a very very good player, but I do see it potentially being a little bit of a put off to some of the teams. So we'll see what ended up happening. I could see a world where Drake May, who maybe you take here with the next pick, we'll talk about it here in just a second. But I think that there is a world where he doesn't end up going as the number one overall pick just because of his attitude. But
Yeah,
I could see him doing an Eli Manning too of I'm not going to play for you if he gets drafted by
yeah.
a team he doesn't want to play for.
And that's what I'm worried about with him is if he goes to a bad team, I don't think he's going to do well at all. I don't think I think he's tired of that, and he doesn't. I don't think he's mentally strong enough at this point in his career to be able to overcome that and to be successful.
Right. Yeah,
So that's yeah,
that's what we'll see.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
puts you on the clock here at 3. Who are you taking?
Yeah, at 103, I am taking the player that you said earlier, Drake May. I think he is inching a little closer to Caleb Williams. You know, I think I think he does have a lot of highlight plays. I mean, I think he had a loss against Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. Um, that wasn't great, and he didn't play super great. So, but you know, I think you're going to have that, and I think he plays in a pretty pro style offense with Mac Brown as his head coach, which he was the head coach of Vince Young, and Colt McCoy. Back in the Texas days in the early 2000s. So, I feel he's going to be fine. I think he's a little bit more pro ready compared to Caleb Williams. Is more of the I know people say that Caleb Williams is the Patrick Mahomes stereotype, with the gunslinger mentality, and I kind of feel that Drake May is more the safer, like Justin Herbert type.
Yeah, for sure. Drake May, he's a good player. He would be up there with this last year's draft class. I would still have CJ Stroud, but I'd probably take Drake May number 2 in this last year's draft class.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
I
think
would
he's
too.
got a lot of potential for sure. That leaves me on the clock here at 4, and I have a little bit of a decision here. And, Brock Bowers, oh man,
Mhm.
can we do it again? That's the
It's
biggest
really hard
question.
to. It's really hard to.
Yeah, and the problem is I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to go, or I'm not going Brock Bowers. I'm going to go Malik Neighbors, and I just
I
really
like
like
that.
this player. I was high on him. If you remember, if you guys listened to it, we did a prospect review months ago, right? Where we kind of mentioned some of these guys early
Mhm.
with some initial rankings on them. And Malik Neighbors was a guy that I was like, watch this guy because I think he has potential to really become a stud. And, Neighbors has shown out pretty well this year in college, and I think he's cemented himself as the number 2 wide receiver in this class. There's a couple other guys that we're going to probably talk about here in this draft, but yeah, I like Malik Neighbors a lot, and I like what his potential is. And you look at the size too. I mean, 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. He's projected a 4.4 40 flat. So,
Mhm.
the dude can move. He's not the fastest guy, but I think he's the prototypical possession wide receiver for an NFL offense.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that. I don't watch a lot of LSU football or really SEC, but he is a pretty elite talent, and it's been helping him having a better quarterback. I think it's Jalen Daniels is their quarterback at LSU. So yeah, he's played pretty well, and I think his game is going to translate well, and he's in another long line of LSU wide receivers that are going to keep transitioning into the league.
For sure. So that puts you on the clock here at 5, and I'm going to keep that decision on you. What are you looking at
Yeah,
here?
so I mean, if it was tight end premium, I would smash Brock Bowers, but I'm a little hesitant on where he's going to go because I know we've had like early first round tight ends, like with T.J. Hawkinson,
Mm-hmm.
most notably Kyle Pitts, which
Yeah.
a lot of people think that he's the greatest thing since Kyle Pitts, and we see what Kyle Pitts has become in Atlanta, but
The
I think
problem
that's a
with
lot of
yeah, and the problem with Pitts is
that's
not
more
the
that's
talent
more
of
Arthur Smith.
Pitts. It's
Yeah.
just it's
Yes.
just the offense. They need a quarterback
The
so
yeah,
bad.
it's a scheme. Yeah, it's a scheme too, but that's beside the point. But yeah, but I'm gonna skip on Brock Bowers, and I'm gonna go with the wide receiver out of Washington, Rome. I'm gonna butcher his
Rome.
name.
It's just Rome.
Yeah, Odunze is
Yes,
how
that
I'm
is
gonna pronounce it.
exactly. Yep, Rome
I probably
Odunze.
mispronounced that, and I'm very sorry, and I will learn how that name is pronounced. But I'm going with Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington. He's been playing across from well, he's been playing with Michael Penix, who we're probably going to talk about today, and who is probably has a good chance to win the Heisman this year. And they've just been slinging it all the way out there on the left coast there, and he's a very prototypical size at 6'3". He's probably going to run a mid, a 4, 4.45.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's just an athletic freak, and those athletic freaks usually translate pretty well in the NFL. Like at least they have a good chance. So
Right.
I think he can be that guy.
Yeah, he's a good player. Again, that's why I was saying with Neighbors is I think he's the number 2 in this class, but Rome Odunze is someone that people are very, very high on, and whether it is because of Penix or not, that's kind of to be determined, right? But a lot of people have put him as the number 2 in this class above Malik, but it's kind of a running gun battle between those two right now as to who's going to be who.
Yep.
All right, now 6 overall. We're still in Superflex, and that's where it's getting tough here. There's some guys that I really like. Michael Penix is a guy that I know you didn't like him a ton, but this year he's really kind of proven himself a lot more, in my opinion. And he had the injury. I hear all of that with the injury stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think he had 2 separate injuries.
Yeah,
and he's
like a super senior, right?
Yeah, I think he is. I'll find his age.
He's older because he's missed. I think this is like his 6th or 7th year of college football right now, and it's all because of injury. So, and COVID, it was kind of a weird situation for this guy, but he's actually not going to be my pick here. The guy that I like a little bit more, and again, Brock Bowers is still there, but I cannot commit to him after what we saw from Pitts. If you could tell me that Brock Bowers was going to get the Sam Laporta treatment, dude, I'd be taking him like number 2 overall. The dude is way more talented than Sam Laporta, and I love Sam Laporta, but Brock Bowers is a freak of nature at the tight end position. But the guy that I'm actually going to be talking about here and taking is going to be Bo Nix with Oregon.
Really?
Yep, I like Bo Nix. We talked about Bo Nix last year.
He's also a super
I know he's older, but
he's played forever.
I know, but I like this offense with him a little bit more, and I think that he's a little bit more stable in the current NFL than Michael Penix is, and that's the only thing that kind of scares me off of Penix is just he's a good player, but I think that, Bo Nix, I just like him a little bit more. I think he's a little bit safer of a prospect than Michael Penix, but that does not make Michael Penix bad by any means. Bo Nix, we talked about him last year with the rookies. He ultimately ended up going back to college, so, went back for another year. We had to wait 1 year, but I think this guy would have been a fringe first-round pick this year. I would have taken Bo Nix over Will Levis, and we saw what Will Levis did this last weekend. So, there's potential there for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do like Bo Nix as QB3 in this draft class so far. I feel he's played a lot of football, and I know a lot of teams like their quarterbacks to have a lot of starts. I think that Bill Parcells said that like he wanted his college quarterback that came in to have like 20 plus starts. No, I think it was 30 starts with 20 wins or something crazy that doesn't happen anymore. And Bo Nix has been at 2 pretty marquee programs at Auburn, and then he's at Oregon the past couple years. So I do think his game translates a little bit better than Michael Penix and Sanders as well.
I think Sanders is going back. I don't even. The reason why I'm not talking about him is I think he's going to commit to 1 more year. There's just been too much up and down with him that I think he's going to go back. So we'll see, but who knows what Deion Sanders has in terms of connections with these guys, but I think ultimately Sanders just needs one more year. So
no, I definitely agree. And that team in Boulder is a little rocky right now, but what's to say that can't be better next year because they've already made
it'll 100%
leaps and
be
bounds
better.
improvements.
Yeah. Say what you will about Deion Sanders, Coach Prime.
Well, he also took over a horrible Buffalo team. They were 1-11 last year, and they have all new players.
Say what you want about him. He's kind of obnoxious at times, and I don't really enjoy his whole persona and stuff. But he does what he's got to do to get the recruiting, man, and I
He
respect
does.
it. But
He does.
when you talk all
Absolutely.
that crap, you got to back it up, and he
Yes,
hasn't
you
done
do.
that yet. But you got to give him a little bit of time, and I'm excited for that team going forward. But yeah, I think Sanders needs one more year. He's a little bit of a raw candidate as it is anyway. So,
Yeah, he is.
all right, you're on the clock here at 7. Who you looking at?
All right. I mean, at this point, like I might look running back. Like there's running backs that we haven't even. Like we haven't even thought about taking a running back at
I
this point
know
because this running
it's
back
just not.
class is
It's a good one, but it's not elite.
yeah. It's I think it's a little. It's lesser than last year's class. Well, I feel last year's class was really heavy with Bijan,
Oh yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
kind of I kind of feel it's very similar like with the mid round guys that are going to be decent in on your dynasty squad for a little bit and be able to supplement some of that,
I like some of
I
these
don't
guys
think
more than some of the guys that went in this draft class, but
yes,
we'll
I agree.
we'll talk about them here soon.
Yeah, but I'm not picking one of those. I kind of feel if I'm at the 107, I'm on that fringe playoff, I barely made the playoffs, I
Mm-hmm.
got ousted pretty early. I think I'm going to go for the home run shot here and I'm going to go with Brock Bowers. I think
Ooh,
I really think at this point in the draft, I think he feels better than, I picked at the 105. I thought about taking him there. So, if he fell to me at 107, which I've seen like Jamar Chase fall there, I've seen, Justin Jefferson fall further than that, AJ
yeah,
Brown, like you said before,
yep.
and I feel he's another generational talent
Justin
that we can see.
Jefferson, yeah,
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah.
list goes on.
Yes.
It's almost better to
Yes.
sometimes pick in the 6 to 10 range, but
I feel it's much better because I feel a lot of these people. I mean, in the first half of your draft, like probably half of these guys are gonna hit, and the other half's not. And
yeah,
and your team's already not very good anyways.
right.
Too. So
Yeah, I think that's the
it
biggest
can be
thing is
pretty
people
rough.
try to get the superstars like the slam dunks, right? And
Yep.
there's always Saquon was probably a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Bijan,
Yeah. He
it
was
hasn't paid
100%.
off so well yet, but I would say Bijan's probably a slam dunk too. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, he is.
but no, I think that Brock Bowers at 107 is amazing value. So,
Yes.
I can't fault you that. Again, if he gets the Sam Laporta treatment, like goodness
As long as
gracious,
he
man.
doesn't go to Atlanta, he'll be just fine.
Oh yeah,
So,
he probably will. To be honest,
he probably
they'll
absolutely
say,
will, and
"Oh,
I'm
it's
going to
Georgia."
scream.
It's
Yes.
they're gonna have a
I
top
will
pick.
scream.
Probably
Yes.
it's gonna be a
It'll be
good time.
wild.
All right, now here at 1-8, this is actually where I think I am going to dip into. Now again, Michael Penix might be a first round pick. We'll see how that kind of changes after the actual NFL draft. But at this point in time, I think he's kind of fringe in my opinion. But I think there is a running back that I really like, and that's going to be, and this is another guy I was high on early, right? And it's kind of coming to fruition here. But Braylon Allen, with the Wisconsin, he's the Wisconsin running back. This dude is a beast. He is a beast of a human being. 245 pounds, 6'2". He's like Derrick Henry size, but he is very fast. He's projected to run a 4.4 flat at 245 pounds. Like if he can run around like in the 2.4s, or sorry, the 2.4s, the 4.4s, anywhere under 4.5. Dude is gonna get insanely exploded up the draft boards.
And the biggest thing too is he's only 19.
Yeah,
He's only
young.
19 years old right
Yep.
now.
And
He's only and he's going to turn 20 next year. Like it's next calendar year.
right.
So yeah, he's very exciting. I think the biggest thing is that he's been a little bit injured.
Mm-hmm.
The past couple years. It was his freshman year. He really exploded on the scene at Wisconsin. He was this next big thing, and then the past couple years he's been good, but he's been a little bit injured. He's had some of those
Oh
problems,
yeah, for sure.
and then last week's game when he played Ohio State, he got injured in the first half, and he in the beginning of that, like he didn't play very well either. So
Right.
that's a little bit concerning, with all these running backs in the NFL. But I do feel it's hard to go wrong with Braylon Allen here.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that the kid, he's young. I mean, if he's, I think this guy is somebody who set the running back squat record for college. Like he's out squatted what Saquon was able to be squatting when he was in college, right? And this guy is a beast. Like he is very, very strong. And if he's that big and that strong already at 19, imagine when he gets like man sized, dude. Like he could be legitimately the next Derrick Henry. And you know, I like this guy a lot. I think that he's going to ultimately be the number one. He's going to be a second round pick in the draft, but we'll see how that ultimately goes. But I want to put my stamp on this kid now. I really like the talent of this guy. And at 1.8, if you're getting the next Derrick Henry, ooh baby, that could be that could be spicy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I like another running back in this class, but I'm a little biased. But that's just me personally.
Oh, you mean you're Ohio State? Hey, you're allowed two more. Yeah. You're allowed two more. You only got two more picks.
I know. And ironically enough, I have two more picks.
Yeah. There you go.
I could still go for it, but
all right, you're on the clock here. Who are you taking?
Yes.
9?
I thought about going TreVeyon Henderson. I really love TreVeyon Henderson. I think he is more of a game breaker than Braylon Allen.
Sure.
But man, this dude cannot stay on the field. He cannot, and it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. So I can't have that on my squad. I want somebody that's dependable. I also thought about going with the wide receiver from Ohio State with Emeka Egbuka, but again, I think he's dealing with a hamstring injury. You know, I'm really excited about this guy. You know, he's lightning quick, but you know, if you have a soft tissue injury, like you don't want to, you know, with a guy that fast, like that takes away some of his game. So I think I'm going to go with it's with some of the hotness here with Keon Coleman from Florida State is who I'm going to go with.
Wide receiver, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a wide receiver. I also thought about going with Xavier Worthy. You know, he's another lightning quick guy, but I like my wide receivers to have, you know, some height, some speed, you know, good hands, and he's played really, really well with Jordan Travis this year, Keon Coleman, and I think he's going to rise on a lot of boards. You know, so you know he was at Michigan State. You know, it was a couple years ago, and then he transferred over to Florida State. And he's played really well, and I think he can be a rising star.
Yeah, he's not someone I'm super familiar with. I know, you know, there's a lot of guys in this one. There's going to be a lot of guys we're not even going to talk about here today. Xavier Leggett is another guy. Emeka Egbuka is somebody. Xavier Worthy, you kind of mentioned these guys. There's no other real tight end, so you know, Brock Bowers is pretty much it. There's going to be guys that are going to be fringe first-round picks, maybe like Jaheim Bell, for example, is somebody to keep an eye on. Jatavian Sanders from Texas. But, you know, these guys are fringe first-round picks. I don't even know if they're going to get that, and they're not necessarily guys that I want to take in a first-round rookie draft unless it's tight end premium and, like, heavy tight end premium. But Brock Bowers is probably the only one. So, there's a lot of wide receivers. There's quite a few quarterbacks. It's a very, very good quarterback class. And, you know, we're barely touching the running backs here. So there's a lot of guys. And, you know, Keon Coleman is just someone that I don't have a ton of knowledge on yet, but he's definitely on my list of someone to get to. So we'll see how things shake out here for sure. But, you know, he's someone that is, I've heard his name rise in the boards for sure. So, all right. I guess here I'm going to have to take Michael Penix.
You don't have to take Michael Penix here.
I think I do, man. It's a Superflex mock draft, and it's 110. Like I feel like we kind of have to take him here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I definitely hear that. I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Penix. I mean, he has matured. He's doing a lot better. By the way, I did look up his age. He's 23 and will turn 24 in May next year. So
I mean, I don't really care so much about the
I know that. But
there's some people out there that
it's just something to be aware of.
Right. There's people out there that talk about it like it matters that much. It's like, who cares? Like as long as you can perform when you're on the field, Nobody cares if
Right.
you're 23 or
So
24.
right.
Nobody
So
cares.
so with Michael Penix, my worry is that when he played in the Big Ten, he was hot garbage. He was not
Right.
very he was electric, but he was pretty turnover heavy. I mean, he played at Indiana, which didn't really help him that much.
Right.
And then he's gone to Washington. He's done really well. But he's
Yeah,
also
he's
played again.
played much better.
He's played much better, but he's played much better against much worse defenses.
I
So
agree. I agree. There's something to
that's
that,
something to
but
keep in mind of.
at the same time,
Yep.
there you look at Caleb Williams. We talked about him a little bit
Yep.
earlier. He hasn't played stellar against good defenses, but
Yep.
sometimes you throw these guys into the deep end, right? Trial by fire with Michael Penix, for example, gets destroyed by tougher defenses, goes to a weaker conference and just starts balling out. That's something that can potentially help these guys with their confidence and, kind of resurrect their career a little bit in terms of
Yeah.
it just gets his mind right in terms of, he knows he can do well and, it helps him develop his skills where he's not trying to do it on the fly against better defenses. So I do like that Michael Penix has improved since he's gone to Washington. Like, that's a very important step to me personally. And I like Michael Penix a little bit more than you anyway. I do think that he has a little bit more upside. We'll see how the NFL kind of treats this guy for sure. That's going to be the biggest decision factor on Michael Penix is he going to be like a decently high? Is he going to be like a Daniel Jones, like top 20 quarterback, first round pick, or is he going to be someone like a Will Levis who falls high in the second round, or
I can see that, or like with Kenny Pickett did in the middle of the first round.
for sure.
I think my worry in it's with Penix though is that I don't think he really I mean he can move around, but he has he has a twice surgically repaired knee.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's not good.
That's something to keep in mind.
Don't send him to Jimmy Garoppolo's school of quarterbacking, but
exactly.
it's no,
exactly.
But the nice thing for Michael Penix is if he gets drafted that late, like let's say he does go in the 20s, the late teens or 20s, right? It's entirely possible he goes somewhere that has a very stable situation around him, right? Where it might actually
100%.
be better for him, where he gets to kind of come into a better situation. Whereas Caleb Williams might go to, Denver, or whoever, pick your choice of the guys vying for the number 1 overall pick right now. Like, let's say Caleb Williams goes to Chicago with Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not bad. It's not a terrible situation, but that offensive line is terrible. You know what I mean? Like, and they're not going to be able to fix it in one offseason, especially when you're giving up your second round picks for Montez Sweat. And then, it's just, there are bad situations where these good players, like look at Trevor Lawrence, for example. He went to Jacksonville, which was a dumpster fire when he went there, right? They've kind of picked things up since they've gone to Doug Peterson, but it's entirely possible that not going top 10 can actually be better for your career. So Michael Penix, especially in a Superflex, I think that he's going to ultimately be a first round pick in a Superflex. So felt like the point right here of getting him is not too crazy. So
and then like at the 110, like that's a pretty good spot and a pretty safe spot for your team too, because you probably have a couple quarterbacks and you're able to wait on this guy. If he hits, that's great.
Right. So, exactly. Like, look at Will Levis. He was a fringe first round pick, and he was a second round draft pick, right? And people were very polarized on him.
Round pick.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. So I like Michael Penix a little bit more than Will Levis, but I could see other people. I could see him being the same as Will Levis, being very polarized. So you're up here at 11. Who you feeling with your last pick?
Yeah. I'm going to go with my guy TreVeyon Henderson. I know I talked about him at the 109. At the 109, it's kind of piggybacking off of what I said about Michael Penix. If you're picking this late in your first round, like you're going for guys that are going to be explosive, can kind of give you like the Devon Achane week sometimes, and just go nuts. And I think TreVeyon Henderson can be that guy. Like he has the pass catching chops. He's very smooth with it, how he runs. It's just the thing is can he stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, he's going to be electric. He's going to be fantastic. and at 111, he's going to be worth that pick if he's able to stay healthy the majority of the time.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
I'm more than happy of taking Trevion Henderson, my guy. I'm very happy I got to take 2 Ohio State players, and I will run away with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that it's potentially amazing, like league winning value here, because
Yes.
Travion Henderson, look at yeah, he's just someone that could definitely explode. And who I wanted to comp him with was DeAndre Swift from a couple years ago. DeAndre Swift was kind of the fourth guy in that, he goes to Detroit. People weren't excited about him. That was the same draft class as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as J.K. Dobbins, rest in peace, as Jonathan Taylor, right? And that was also Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. There was a lot of good players in that one. So ultimately, DeAndre Swift fell down the board a little bit, and he's been a little bit up and down through his career, but I would say DeAndre Swift is pretty comfortably locked in right now, especially with the Eagles, where Travion Henderson is who I kind of picture that as. Is he's someone who might fall a little bit further down the boards, but he has the talent to slam in the right situation. You know 100%. What I mean? So 100%. No, I like that a lot. And for my last pick, I'm actually to double up here on Ohio State, and I'm going with your wide receiver here, Emeka. How do you say his last name?
Emeka Egbuka.
Emeka Egbuka. So yeah, that's I'm gonna have to try and remember that for the season. But this guy, he gets no love because of Marvin Harrison. At least I get to get a wide receiver from Ohio State, because these guys are just they're grown on trees down there. But
they are.
No, this guy's a good player. He just doesn't get much love because of Marvin Harrison. I honestly believe that.
Well, in the problem this year, he's been injured. He was fantastic last year. He was it's for Stroud, like he was his safety valve. He was
right. Without JSN, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Like he took the JSN role, and I feel he's the same size as JSN roughly, but he's faster.
Yeah, I feel bad for this guy, because he didn't Egbuka. He played with Olave and Garrett Wilson, right? He was on the team. He was a rookie at that time, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
A freshman, I guess rookie, but he was a freshman so he's played behind Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. He played behind Marvin Harrison. He's played behind JSN. Like, the dude is just like he's playing with just amazing wide receivers. That's the draft capital ahead of him, right?
And he's stuck it out,
right?
He's gonna he's gonna be another great one. I feel he's. I know some people might think of like they can think of like Jameson Williams. Comes, it's for me is somebody that, it's this fast guy that was a high state player that transferred.
Right.
That is not Egbuka. He is more of a run after the catch guy. He's not, he is a big play guy, but he's going to make people miss. He's going to make people look foolish in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I think now I'm not as locked in on him as you are, but I do think that this guy has the potential to be an amazing slot wide receiver for an NFL team. And, 100%. That does not mean as much as it used to. People used to avoid the slot like crazy, but, with PPR leagues being so popular, like, tell me that this guy goes to the Rams and gets 14 targets a game. Like, I think that's fine. There's a lot of places where this guy will go. I think he's going to be a first round pick as well. I would rather have him than Keon Coleman, but again, I don't know much about Keon Coleman yet. So, but he's right there in the discussion for me between. So obviously it's Marvin Harrison number 1. I like Malik Neighbors number 2, but Rome Odunze and Emeka Egbuka, those guys are right there at 3-4 for me. So that's where it's going to be interesting how the NFL values this guy. But again, I think for fantasy football, he will be just fine for sure. So, the takeaways from this mock draft, I guess, what are your main takeaways from the mock so far?
I would say draft your Ohio State wide receivers. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I think that it's the top players are very elite, and then there's a
Hmm.
lot of guys that are still really good in like a tier below, but there's a lot of them.
Where do you think the
So,
tier break is
yeah,
right now? If you're looking at this
um,
first round,
I would probably,
I'd say it's probably right around 9, right?
yeah,
8, 9.
I
You
would
could
say
say
so.
Braylon Allen
Yeah,
is a tier down, but um, I think that
yeah. I mean, I would say I would say Bo Nix is in the tier down in my opinion. In talent
swapping Brock
wise.
Bowers, like obviously
Yes,
Brock Bowers is
yes,
that elite
yes.
talent, but
Yes,
in a
would,
super
yeah,
flex,
I would probably say the top 6 are the premier players,
sure.
and then it's like a half step down to these other guys.
Sure, but the yeah, it's a deep class for sure. And the
Yes,
nice
yes,
thing for me,
100%.
the biggest takeaways are it's an amazing, and it's been like this for years, but it's
Mhm.
like, oh, every year there's more and more wide receivers. Last year was the small guys, right? You got Josh Downs, you've got Zay Flowers, you've got all these just short guys, Jordan Addison. They're fast and they're tiny, and this year is just a resurgence of, all right, boys,
Some of these
the
big
let the
bodied wide
adults come in here
receivers.
because
Yes,
we're coming in to
yes,
play, because these guys, like you talked about with Marvin Harrison, this guy is 6'4", 205. Malik Neighbors is 6 foot, 205 pounds. Like, these guys are big dudes and they are
yes,
possession guys, and that's
yes.
where I love this wide receiver class. And then you couple that with the quarterback class. Again, you've got a few question marks on Bo Nix. You've got a few question marks on Michael Penix, but I do think that these guys ultimately in Superflex are going to be potential long-term starters. You look at the state of the quarterback in the NFL, guys are getting injured left, right, and center. You've got
I know they
you've
are.
got Desmond Ridder out there starting for franchises, where I think Bo Nix would be able to instantly be the quarterback one for Atlanta if he were
Yeah,
to go there, right?
you would be
So,
100%.
I think that it's a great class for quarterback, reloading that tier, that middle tier of guys with a couple potential elites with Caleb Williams and Drake May. Wide receiver, you've got it all over the board that it's going to refill that
Yeah,
as well. You've got the elite Brock Bowers. And then again, I like Braylon Allen. I think that there's a couple, Travion Henderson. There's a lot of potential like superstars that are going to,
yes, there
revamp
are.
these positions and reload them to an amazing level. So hopefully you guys like that as well. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. If there's anybody that we missed out on that we should be looking at, or if you disagree with any of these picks, I mean, you can let us know. But for a Superflex mock
100%.
draft, I feel like this is more than likely you're not going to have a homer in most leagues that's going to take Marvin Harrison. I don't blame it, but Caleb
Yeah,
Williams, Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr., that's going to be your top 3 in
yeah.
some order or another, right? So it just depends how it's going to fall in the actual NFL draft. So yeah, hopefully you guys like this mock draft. Let us know your thoughts down below. Dale, any last thoughts here before we get out of here?
Nope, just send it home.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us here today. You can find us again on Twitter at TDC_Calvin for myself, at Dynasty_Dale for my co-host here, and the podcast at FF After Dark. Now, we've been doing the Betting After Dark podcast as well, coming out every Saturday. We've been, some pretty good bets, a couple of down weeks here, but that's just betting in general. Some of my bets, I've been hitting a lot of them, but I parlay the wrong ones together or something like that. So I'm learning the same as you guys are out there, but so hopefully you guys are sticking with it. But my sister's been killing it, and we're still up money on the season. I'm up $160 so far.
Nice.
So it's pretty good. 16% return on investment in 1 month's time is better than the stock market at this point. So hopefully you guys like that podcast. Go check that out. It drops every Saturday morning. So, if you're looking for a little bit of sports betting, some of the best bets for the week, we're going to have those covered for you guys there. And I'll learn how to, I'm good at doing the parlays when I'm not on the podcast, which is hilarious, but we'll get there. We're going to get there for you guys. Make sure you guys are making a ton of money with me. So that said, thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel. We're going to be adding more and more content nonstop throughout the offseason and throughout the NFL season. So make sure you guys are tuned in, and thank you guys for joining us. Until next time, have a good night.
And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?